ounce.org. Again, that's advocacy@theounce.org. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared electronically after the event and posted to our website. So with that, I did want to just highlight that I am joined today by several of my colleagues from two partner organizations. So first, we will hear from Erica Mendez and Jose Marco Paredes with the Latino Policy Forum. They will tell us a little bit more about the importance of early childhood, how to craft your message, as well as explain things that are happening at the state and what's happening in Springfield. Next, we will be joined by Liz Wilson with Illinois Action for Children, who will offer an update on training and opportunities through their Spring into Action conference. And lastly, I will wrap up the webinar with specifics on Early Childhood Advocacy Day, which is on April 3rd. So this is just a quick overview of some of the things we will cover in today's webinar. And again, we have reserved the last few minutes for questions, but you are welcome to enter them in the Q&A box at any time. So first, I would just like to explain, or start by explaining that advocacy is at the core of the mission of the Ounce's work as we work to advance high-quality childhood opportunities from birth to 5. The Ounce, along with our partners on the webinar, understand that the first years of life are essential and require advocacy to ensure that our youngest learners can grow, thrive, and be successful. So with that, I will actually turn things over to our partners with the Latino Policy Forum.
Thank you, Carmen. Hi, everyone. We are very excited you are participating with us today. My name is Erica Mendez, and I'm presenting this portion of the webinar with my colleague, Jose Marco Paredes. We are here on behalf of the Latino Policy Forum, a statewide advocacy organization that works to increase access to high-quality early childhood opportunities and high-quality bilingual education. We work on accessible access to affordable housing, and we advance immigration policies at the state and local level. In addition to that, we also have a multicultural leadership academy that works with African American and Latino communities in a way to build bridges and promote policies that are really representative of the state. With that, I will talk through a little bit about our objectives today. We have 3 objectives in this section, and we want parents and staff to have the tools they need to serve as effective advocates in 3 ways, right? We want to provide an overview of early childhood education and its importance. We want a rundown. We want to give you guys a rundown on elected officials and the budget process. And we want to use storytelling and elevator pitches as a tool to engage elected officials. So what is early childhood education? Early childhood education is any educational program that serves children between the ages of 0 to 5 years of age, and often there are some criteria that have to be met in order to receive such services. So who are their children 5 and under in Illinois? In 2016, the census found that there were over 900,000 children under the age of 5 in Illinois. 42% were below 200% of federal poverty level. Now, federal poverty level is a term used to essentially say that a family doesn't quite make enough income to meet basic needs and often has to supplement with some help. For our youngest learners under 5, 33% are African American, 35% are Latino, 26% are white, and Asian and other make up 5% of this community. it's really important to get a sense of who these children are and why support is critical to ensure future success. We believe that this support starts with quality early childhood opportunities. Now, early childhood opportunities in the state of Illinois are wide and vast, and we have quite a number of programs that ensure that children in Illinois have a good start and a successful start in life. And they are housed in different departments, different state agencies across the state. So advocacy for these agencies is going to look quite different. You might be talking to different stakeholders and partners about some of the issues that are of most importance to you. These are some of the agencies. So the Illinois State Board of Education houses two very large early childhood programs, Preschool for All and Early Intervention. A lot of these programs do receive a mix of funding between state and federal monies, but there is also one program, the Child Care Assistance Program, that uses a combination of three different funding streams: federal, state, and parent copay. For the Illinois Department of Human Services, IDHS, they oversee a number of different programs: Prevention Initiative, Early Head Start, Home Visiting, and CCAP, as I mentioned before. All of these also use a variety of different funding streams, and they vary. So our advocacy strategy will vary depending on which stakeholders we want to engage, if it's our local stakeholders, if it's agencies, staff, and directors, if it's elected officials in Illinois, or if we are promoting advocacy at the national level, federal level. So for the purposes of this presentation, we're focusing on what advocacy we can promote at the state level through some of the opportunities that will be discussed at the end of this webinar. So why do we advocate for early childhood education? And why are these programs so important to our families? Why should lawmakers have this as a priority on their agenda? Their research contends with some of the 5 points that you see on the screen. It fosters healthy development, and we see that with cognitive, growth and fine motor skills, language and literacy, social and emotional. These are all key tenets of a child's healthy developmental milestones that we should keep in mind, and research also supports this. The second point is that it eases transition and prepares children for school. In Illinois, we're particularly concerned with the transition from preschool to kindergarten and how these early learning opportunities kind of facilitate and help get our children to kindergarten. The third is that it closes the achievement gap. The fourth is that it improves health outcomes. Research shows that when given these early interventions, children, especially low-income children, are at lower risk for serious cardiovascular and metabolic diseases such as stroke and diabetes, and can prevent chronic disease and reduce healthcare costs in the future. And lastly, this is something that a lot of lawmakers like to hear, is that early childhood education generates a 13% annual return on investment. And so these are some of the, what we believe to be things that drive lawmakers to really take this into consideration, is all the different benefits that come from investing in early childhood. However, we know that this list is not exhaustive, and we know that there are other benefits to early childhood education that aren't listed there. So at this portion of the webinar, we ask that in the small Q&A chat box, you list possibly some benefits that you see that aren't captured in the 5 benefits that I listed below. We'll give you guys a couple of minutes to type those answers in. So again, we are just writing a sentence or a phrase of what you think are the benefits of early childhood education. Okay, so we encourage all of you to think about this question and bring these ideas to Advocacy Day. It's your personal stake in these programs that makes a difference when you're engaging elected officials, which kind of leads us to our next slide on who are these state actors. And when engaging in Advocacy Day or in the Spring to Action conference, we're likely going to be engaging with elected officials who are legislators. And so what is a legislator? It's an elected official, someone who is accountable to you. They write laws, they vote on proposed laws, and in addition to writing and passing laws, they take part in supporting and creating annual budgets for government programs. And it's really important, and I want to emphasize that elected officials are accountable to you. You vote elected officials into office, and when they make decisions, they should keep their communities and their constituents in mind. And if you don't feel like the decisions that they're making are representative of your needs and priorities, then you also have the power to vote them out of office. And all of this kind of comes back to advocacy and making sure that that voice is at the table when these decisions are being made. So what's happening right now in our state government? There are two elements that I'd like to highlight that is really going to justify why the importance of advocacy is so pressing right now. The first is that we have just gone through a huge election season where we voted in a new governor and a plethora of new elected officials who are in the House and the Senate. This is incredibly important because this means that these are new individuals that need to be engaged by the community. They have new roles, they're setting their agendas and their priorities, and they're pretty open to hearing from the community to hear what their priorities should be. And this energy is very new and very exciting for them. So we should definitely take advantage of this transition period to make sure that the needs of your community and the children in your community are at the forefront of their minds. The second big shift that has been somewhat daunting on our state for quite some time is the growing debt that the state has incurred. At this point, it's several billions or more than several billions of dollars. And this is particularly crucial or critical at this point because when the state is in budgetary constraint, it tends to propose budgets that are somewhat conservative and cut some of the funding to programs that we are most passionate about in early childhood. And we've seen this happen with early childhood programs in the past 10 years. So advocacy is really important to ensure that these programs are a priority and that they continue to be a priority for the current administration and administrations to come. So how does the budget process kind of unfold and what does this look like? So at the very beginning, the governor proposes a budget, and this year he proposed a budget about a month ago, February 19th or 20th, that did include a number of line items for early childhood education. After this budget is proposed, the House and the Senate have some idea of how to build from that and where they can either improve or kind of move some of the numbers around so that it makes sense for their constituents. So they host hearings, Senate and House hearings, to kind of inform this process for them. These House and Senate hearings are happening as we speak. They happened weeks after the governor proposed his budget, and they're going to continue to happen. Upon that process kind of wrapping up, they then kind of start talking internally and deciding how similar are these requests to what the governor has proposed, and where can we move money around or find money to make sure that we're getting close to what department agencies and individuals from communities are requesting. Now, before I move on to the House and the Senate introducing budget bills, it's important to note that these House and Senate hearings are representative of advocates who come and testify, agency directors that host specialized hearings on different programs, and they invite the community and the advocates and the agencies to come and give them an accurate account of what exactly is needed to keep programs and maintain programs or create new programs. So once these hearings occur and once they do some internal decision making, both the House and the Senate introduce budget bills that are reflective of what they heard during these hearings. And once they introduce those budget bills, they kind of go back and have additional hearings if needed, just to make sure that they captured everything correctly. And if they did, they move to pass a budget in the House and the Senate. At this point of the process, there's already conversations on whether the governor is going to pass or veto the budget bills introduced. This usually happens in the summer, and in past, we sometimes didn't pass a budget and we went into a budget impasse, but often, or we hope that this year a budget will pass so that fiscal 2020 can move forward and funding for these programs can be appropriated. So what exactly are we asking legislators to do in regards to the budget process? Now, the early childhood community has come together around a couple of asks. Some of these were upheld and even supported even more in the governor's proposed budget, and some weren't. The first one is the expansion of funding for the Preschool for All program by a minimum of $150 million. Now, this was an ask that was created by a group of early childhood advocates. The governor's proposed budget increased Preschool for All by $100 million. We are supportive of the governor's increase because it's the largest increase we've received in a very long time, I think ever. The $150 million that we were proposing is just a benchmark for what we think investments in early childhood education, especially Preschool for All, should be. The second ask that we have as a group is to support a $250 million investment in early childhood facilities. This money is sorely needed in the state and is for early childhood facilities who need to expand classrooms, who need to renovate buildings that are outdated, or who just need to have a new facility built up from the ground up. And so this is an ask that is not necessarily something that comes out of a line item, but it's something that comes out as a budgetary capital appropriation, and hasn't happened in the last 10 years. So we're trying to get a significant amount of money this time around because we don't know when a next capital grant will come. The third ask is that there is an increase to funding for home visiting, and this is for the Illinois Department of Human Services home visiting program. It hasn't been increased in a decade, which means that we haven't been able to expand this program and allow for more families to access these services, and these are particularly critical for children under the age of 5, especially birth to 3. The fourth ask is that we support the governor's proposed $50 million increase to the Child Care Assistance Program. This was something that the early childhood community is very happy to hear, especially as we are going into 12-month eligibility, finally kind of seeing the fruition of that come to be, but also as we're considering legislation that complements these budgetary to increase eligibility around child care assistance, the child care assistance program. The fifth ask is around early intervention and expanding funding for early intervention. The governor's proposed budget asked for a $7 million increase to this program. This, although is a great stride forward, we think it will only sustain programming and again will allow for more families to access these services at the level that they should be. So we are requesting more for this particular line item. And the sixth is a much more general and long-term vision, but it's generating new revenue streams to support these investments. We don't want to have to keep coming back every year asking for money. We want the ability, or we don't want the state to consider cutting funding for these programs. We want there to be an ability where the programs are sustained and where threats of budget cuts aren't looming over the heads of providers and stakeholders in early childhood. These revenue streams will allow for that sustainability to occur. And with that, I will hand things over to my colleague, Jose Marco, who will be discussing tools for communication and engagement with elected officials.
Good afternoon, everyone. So as we just learned about Springfield with Erika and about the process in which the budget is passed, I'd like to briefly give you some tips that hopefully can help you with your interactions with legislators in Springfield. What you're going to find during Advocacy Day is that legislators are walking back and forth through all the corridors, right? Everyone seems to be very busy, and they are. And it's key that we make the most of our time there. Because at best, we're not going to get more than 1 minute to talk to them. If that is the case, how are we going to get a legislator to listen to us or to remember what we mentioned when it comes to make decisions that are going to impact, when it's going to affect us and our families? With a great elevator speech. And what is this elevator speech? It's a really brief, no more than 30 seconds, and persuasive speech to spark interest. It can be of anything really, an idea, a project, an organization you work for, anything you can think of can be summarized in a way that really engages the person that you're talking to. So the next question is, how do I come up with a short speech that is memorable, that makes someone who's really busy and that talks to so many people each day really care? Through storytelling. Storytelling is the most powerful tool we can use to make people take action. It's also the most powerful tool to attach something to someone's mind, right? Just think about the stories that we were told when we were little, the stories that we tell to our children, right? So they learn about life and they remember all of those things over time. Well, that's the same technique that we're going to use to persuade legislators and basically anyone, right, that we want them to get some interest of what really mattered to us. So the preparation of that speech takes a lot of time. So you will have to practice. And unfortunately, we do not have the time today to do an activity together and to give some advice one to the other, right? So we're going to have to practice in our own. But I will give you an example in a minute. Just remember a couple of tips. Try to make it personal. It's about you, and make them understand the impact that a legislation or a funding stream will have on you, on your family, maybe in all of us. They must see themselves reflected on you. Think that it could be them in your position, right? So I would give you another tip. You really have to be very passionate. You really have to be enthusiastic. If we want legislators to care, we need to show them how involved we are in these issues, right? So I'll give you an example. Just you can use your time to say, for example, hello, my name is Jose Marco, and I think it's very important that you expand the funding for early intervention. It's a very good program, and there are many children that need those services and that are not getting the support they need. We really need this money, and we would ask you to please consider expanding the program. Right? That's a good speech. I mean, it's really descriptive, but there's lacking that personal touch, right? It's lacking that passion. It's lacking that personal story. How is that making a difference in you, in your children? So the other example would be, say, something like, hello, my name is Jose Marco, and I have a 4-year-old daughter, Laura. At the beginning, our baby seemed to be doing great. She was a bit quiet, but she was great. But time went by, and we noticed that something was wrong. She wouldn't talk until we were referred to early intervention. The first time I heard her say a word, I started crying. The word was star. I can still remember the word, star. I ask that you please consider expanding early intervention because every child deserves their first word. Right? That's the difference between the two speeches that you can give. You only have 30 seconds. It has to be really short, but it really told a story, how there will be thousands of children that maybe have the same challenge that your child has, right? But what you have is a personal story, something that you've witnessed, something that when someone legislates in a determined way or decides to put more money in a program or into another, it's really going to make a difference. And only you can tell that story. So you have to take those that only shot that probably you're going to have, those 30 seconds, to try and tell that personal story. So legislators really need a lot of people every single day in Springfield. A lot of people that have different interests, right? Not the same interests that we might have. So, but there's something really powerful that you all have, and it's your story, that personal story that's really going to move them. So it's something that you have to be conscious about, and you have to try to use it when you're down there in Springfield, because if not, it's not going to be different, your speech, to any other ones, and that's not going to make a difference. So I would finally recommend that you really take the time to know why are you going to Springfield? Why is it so important for you, for your family, for your community? That's something that you have to think about and try to tell that story. And at the end, the legislator has to see that it could be themselves, right? You could be them, and that's what we're trying to let them, to have them see. And I can't stop reinforcing this. You have to practice. It's really complicated to try to summarize an idea, a story, just in 30 seconds. And most of us really get really nervous, right? If we're down there in Springfield and we're meeting legislators, they're all in their suits, and sometimes it's difficult, right? We get nervous. So I encourage all of you to practice. Maybe write it down. Try to practice with a partner, because I can assure you that your story can really make a difference. Thank you.
And with that, we will transition to our next speaker, Liz Wilson, who will be talking a little bit about the Spring into Action conference.
Hi, thank you for having me. Please let me know if you have any trouble hearing me. I just wanted to take the time to talk about Illinois Action for Children on our 22nd annual Spring into Action conference coming up April 2nd. So Illinois Action for Children works to ensure that every child in Illinois, particularly those in need, have access to the resources to succeed in school and life. Since our founding in 1969, Illinois Action for Children has worked to create systems of early care and education that help strengthen families and communities. So this year's Spring into Action theme is Advocacy Everywhere, using our outdoor voices for change. Attendees will have the opportunity to delve into key legislative issues through just-in-time policy-oriented workshops and visits to the state capitol. Excuse me. Everyone will be able to participate in a wide range of policy workshops that impact children and families. You'll receive resources and learn best practices to enhance your work. And you'll be able to provide feedback on specific statewide projects. We know how important it is to network with other advocates. So with this in mind, we have a networking reception every year during the first evening. So this year we'll include a short screening of the film No Small Matter. No Small Matter is a documentary film and a national engagement campaign that brings public attention to early childhood education by sharing powerful stories and stunning truths about the human capacity for early intelligence and the potential for quality early care and education to benefit America's social and economic future. If you go to our registration page on our website, you'll be able to view a trailer of No Small Matter. And our keynote this year is Rachel Giannini, who is actually featured in the film No Small Matter. So it's a really great opportunity to ask her questions and get to know the work. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Liz, for sharing information about the Spring into Action Conference. So this is Carmen Garcia again, and I'm now going to talk a little bit about Advocacy Day, which is April 3rd in Springfield. So Early Childhood Advocacy Day is really a great opportunity to speak up for children and families and really stress the need for investments that Erica covered earlier in the webinar. So people are, in fact, traveling all over the state to join us on April 3rd in Springfield. This event is really a great opportunity to meet others with similar interests. It's also an opportunity to ask questions of your lawmakers, make your elevator pitch, and really just see the budget and advocacy process in action. So the activities planned for the day do begin at about 10:30 and wrap up at 2 p.m. So right now, registration is open for Advocacy Day, and we encourage folks to register soon, particularly those who are interested in transportation from Chicago. We do offer some limited transportation, but please do sign up before the spots fill up. So there are a few things you can expect on Advocacy Day. So we do offer a program at the State House Inn that begins at 10:30. Once you arrive there, you will be given snacks, lunch, a t-shirt, a folder full of materials that really cover some of the things we have already discussed in this webinar. You will also have an opportunity to hear about what's happening during the day. We will provide you any updated information of where you can find your lawmaker. So for those of you that are comfortable or feel like you are ready to speak with your state lawmakers, you can head towards the Capitol building at approximately 11:30. For folks who are interested in doing some additional training, asking additional questions, we do encourage you to stay put at the hotel, and there will be an opportunity for a short advocacy training. After this training, people can head to the Capitol building at around noon. From approximately noon to 2, we will be going between the Capitol building and the Stratton building looking for our lawmakers. There's potential that they could be in session, so there would be an opportunity for you to go to either the House or Senate chamber doors, or look for them in their offices, which are located throughout the Capitol building and the adjacent Stratton building. If at all possible, we do encourage you to consider making an appointment with your legislator before attending Springfield. This really just gives you an opportunity to give them a heads up and or maybe have a chance to speak to them. If you're unclear who your lawmaker is, you can visit our Advocacy Action Center at theounds.org/advocacy. However, if you don't make an appointment ahead of time, that's perfectly fine too. So I just wanted to wrap up by reminding you that you, in fact, are the expert. As we learned today, you have your own story to share and your own example, and state legislators really do appreciate hearing from their constituents, learning more about the viewpoints of people that live in their district. So with the tools you learned today on this webinar, you will be able to confidently craft your message and share it. So just a few tips before attending Advocacy Day. So the State House Inn is located fairly close to the Capitol building. So we will be able to walk over from the meeting space to the Capitol building. During our time between both the Capitol and Stratton, we will likely be visiting several floors, different wings of the building. So it is suggested that you wear comfortable shoes. We will also provide you with maps of the Capitol building and legislative offices upon your arrival to Springfield, so you can feel confident walking throughout the building. There will also be staff on site, so you are more than welcome to ask questions in case you do happen to get a little lost. We will also provide you with basic instructions on how to call your lawmaker out from the legislative floor. For this process, you may want to bring your own business cards. However, if you do not have your own business cards, or if you happen to forget them, that's okay too. We will supply you with blank cards for this. Before you head over to Springfield, we encourage you to start building support over social media to let others know that you are attending. We will be releasing virtual advocacy tools to enhance your engagement. But again, you can start using the hashtag AdvocateECE to let people know that you are planning to attend. It's just really a nice way to bring attention to the issues we hope to discuss and really let others know the importance of early childhood programs, how they're impacting you, families, parents, children, and others in your community. Another great way to really kind of make the most of the day if you do attend Advocacy Day is to make sure you take photos. You can share these photos with your program's newsletter. You can share them back with your elected officials if you meet with them. And again, it's just another great way to make the event visible and also your advocacy. So with that, that is the end of our webinar. Again, you can contact us at advocacy@theounce.org in case you are having any technical difficulties using the Q&A feature. You can register now for Advocacy Day. Again, that's theounce.org/advocacy day. But we are now open to take questions if folks have them. And just a quick reminder that this webinar will in fact be posted. So if folks would like to share it or would like to view it again, we will send a link of that after the webinar session. Great. So it doesn't appear that we have any questions at this time. However, we do thank you for attending the webinar, and please feel free to reach out to us through our contact information if you have questions.